The Simple Physical Activity Questionnaire, or SIMPAQ, is a 5-item clinical tool designed to assess physical activity levels among populations at risk of engaging in high levels of sedentary behaviour, such as people experiencing mental illness. The 5 items include sedentary time, napping time, time spent walking, time spent in structured exercise, and time spent in incidental physical activity or unstructured activity. SIMPAQ can take between 3 and 7 minutes to complete and can be done by researchers or clinicians depending on the level of information required. The first item has been designed not to assess sleep time but to assess time in bed overnight. And the purpose of question 1 is to give us an anchor that we can then use to help participants account for a rough 24-hour period in the rest of the questionnaire. So the first question asks participants what time they mostly go to bed and what time they mostly get out of bed over the past 7 days. So as an example, if someone says that they go to bed around midnight and they wake up around midday, we know that leaves around 12 hours that we need to account for with the rest of the questionnaire. The purpose of question 2 is to assess sedentary time, and we know that typically people underreport the amount of time they spend in sedentary behaviour. One of the novel aspects of SIMPAQ is that we've included an item 2B, that looks at napping, given the importance of napping for clinical outcomes. So question 2 asks participants to report all hours per day spent sitting, including those sitting or lying down, such as eating, reading, watching TV or using electronic devices. Box 2A assesses all sedentary behaviour, including napping. Item 2B provides an opportunity to record time spent napping as a subset of total sedentary time. Item 3 looks at time spent walking. You'll notice there's a table there listing the days Monday through Sunday in order to capture the variability in the amount of time people spend walking over a 7-day period. Items 4A and 4B are our exercise questions. You'll notice that in the instructions there are 2 blank lines that have space for cultural specific examples of relevant sport and exercise activities that people might participate in. For example, here in Australia we would add cricket and football as the 2 examples. The table in 4B can be completed in as little or as much detail as required depending on who is completing the SIMPAQ. For example, an exercise scientist or a physical therapist might spend more time getting more detailed history of someone's physical activity levels. Finally, question 5 aims to assess incidental activity, or hours spent in other activities such as gardening or household chores. Each of the 5 boxes along the right-hand side should have a number in it, and the sum of those 5 boxes should account for roughly a 24-hour period. If the sum of the 5 boxes is significantly less than 24 hours, we recommend going back to the participant and clarifying whether each of the boxes has been under or over-reported, particularly box 2A. A couple of other key things about the SIMPAQ. Firstly, you'll notice there is no minimum time for each of the items, and that was very deliberate given the population by which we've designed this clinical tool. Secondly, you'll notice there is no mention of intensity throughout the questionnaire, other than in table 4B, which has an option for the interviewer to record the intensity of individual activities. And finally, for each of the items, simple calculations may be required to ensure all numbers in the 5 boxes are in hours per day. And for further instructions, please see the SIMPAQ manual.